got the nails clipped. And I used to get bit all the time. Then what I found, some things happened in my life that changed my outlook in many ways. And I became very much enamored with meditation. Okay? And what I found is that when I go into an examination room and that dog is acting up, that the first thing, if I want to calm dog, is to calm myself. And so I watch my breathing, and I do this very, very consciously. And I find that that dog just calms down. And I also instruct, as I became more confident in this, one is I instructed my staff members on the same thing. We would practice that. And two is that I instruct pet owners. Because what happens when I'm in a room and I'm doing something and the dog starts acting up is, what does the pet owner start to do? What's the first thing they do? And they're going to console him. Fluffy, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Fluffy. It's okay. Right? They're saying one thing, but they know it ain't okay. And Fluffy knows it ain't okay. So I stop right there. I just stop. Right? Breathe. Feel your body from within. Feel that tingling sensation. Just feel that. It works. It works. You get those endorphins start going, the catecholamines go away, the stress hormones go away. I mean, you can look at the physiological aspects of it, or as far as I'm concerned, you can explain it as far as chi energy. And it's transmitted between the dog and me, between me and the dog. And I think it goes the other way when we're talking about children in difficult situations. If the dog comes up and licks their knee or licks their face. If that's what you mean, yes. I've explored it in my own mind to that degree. And I don't know that there's scientific validity to it, but as a professor of mine said when I was in veterinary school, he said, he was a New Zealander, he said, if n equals 1 is significant, but you're the 1. Okay? So if you find that it seems to work, then that's what it does. I got lots of slides in here on canine communication, tail, facial features, and all of that sort of thing. But I think you were talking about something else, right? Yeah. Anybody else?
No, I just wanted to follow up on what you were saying about pet ownership being a responsibility. A friend of mine just oh gosh, this week adopted a 6-month-old puppy, and she wrote me this email last night and listing how adorable she is, this, that, and the other thing. She goes, but she's got to learn not to jump on my husband. I wrote her back and said she's got to be taught not to jump on her husband. And and she said, oh well, it should be okay in about 6 weeks, if we go through training. And I just wrote back, ha 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 ha. It's a long-term commitment, devotion.
Exactly.
So.
The other one that I experience is that I will go into the exam room with an owner with a new puppy, and they will say to me, I've had dogs all my life, so I know about dogs. You know what? I've had cars all my life. Okay? There's been a car sitting out beside my house all my life. I don't know the first damn thing about cars. Okay? I've ridden in them, I've driven them, I know the sort of the theoretical workings of the internal combustion engine, but other than that, I don't know a thing about it. And just owning a dog doesn't mean you know about them. And so, again, when I become benevolent dictator of the universe, everybody who gets a dog will go see Susan, okay, and will get properly indoctrinated with an owner's manual on how to talk to the dog and how to listen to the dog. What you think you're saying to them, what you actually are saying to them, and what they're trying like crazy to say back to you. You can hold up your T-shirt then, too, because that's a perfect example. Yes. Anybody else? Yes.
I have a question. You talked about the genetics of aggression or behavioral traits, and even if you put a calm female dog with an aggressive puppy, the puppy's going to grow up and still behave aggressively. If you would look at if you have a dog that you've adopted and that has aggression, and even though you go through a lot of behavioral things with that dog, do you, as a veterinarian, feel that you can use some medications to with that training, or are you opposed to using any kind of psychotropics to help with that?
Okay.
And how much of that is going to help if the dog has been genetically, the parents were aggressive dogs or had a hard time? Is it even going to help?
Yeah, it's a great question. Did everybody hear that? Okay, it's the old nature or nurture argument. You know, if you have the genetics in your dog that essentially makes it tend toward being fearful, that's where most aggression that I see comes from, is fear. All right, anxious, anxiety. You know, how much of that can you actually then correct with behavior training, behavior modification? And my answer is quite a bit. You can work within a certain, your genetics essentially defines your boundaries to some degree. But so you want to work toward the best part of that boundary that you can get to. And then the second part of the question, do psychotropic medications, are they a benefit? And I find that in some instances they are. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, we don't very much understand these medications. You can say, okay, well, they increase serotonin in the brain. Okay, good. What's that do? You know, but, you know, I use the tools that I have in hand, so that when I have, you know, a dog that is undergoing behavior modification and just can't seem to concentrate, I find that in some cases some Prozac really works well. A couple weeks down the road, that dog is able to actually focus on what the trainer is going through to teach him.
It doesn't work for the dog, the trainer can take it.
The trainer himself. But unfortunately, you don't know about, maybe you don't know about this drug called clomicalm out there. This is the first behavior drug to come out on the market. It was marketed for separation anxiety. Okay? And you know, I hate to admit this, but veterinarians, in veterinary school, there are two things you're not taught about. One is behavior, and two is nutrition. Okay? You don't know. You're going to have to get it on your own when you get out of school, because you don't learn it in school. Behavior medicine is relegated to the dark recesses of a veterinary school. There are 30, I think, behaviorists, board-certified veterinary behaviorists in the entire world. It's a very new discipline, and it's crazy as far as I'm concerned. It's just crazy. I mean, every case is a behavior case that comes in to see me. So the fact of the matter is that it's an under-addressed. It's just simply an under-addressed discipline in my view. And there are reasons for that. Yeah.
Just a little further on her question. If you do have the dog, if you don't know anything about the dog, as we all seem to come in contact with all the time,
Yeah.
and it is the genes that make this dog aggressive, like the aggressive one, as opposed to the dog, maybe something terrible's happened to it, and it's not genetics at all.
Right.
What's going to happen if it really is the genes, as opposed to the dog that's just been mistreated and is going to be able to turn around because that is the environment, as opposed to the dog that is right there in the genes. You just don't know. You don't know that when you get the dog.
Well, right. And here's my point there. Let me go back 1 second, because I was talking about clomicalm, then I went off the subject. And that is that clomicalm, you know, was marketed for separation anxiety. And if you just give a dog, okay, the dog has separation anxiety, huge number of dogs out there have it. If you just say, okay, here's some clomicalm, see you next week, it's not going to get better. Okay? If you try and just do clomicalm instead of in place of behavior modification, it just isn't going to work. And now, to address your question, the fact of the matter is there are cases where I have to get out the needle. The dog is not, it's in a house with children, for instance, it's aggressive, and behavior modification didn't work, or in many instances, I just don't happen to have the clients who are willing to put in what needs to be done. I mean, it's a huge dedication of time for people to address a behavior problem with a dog, and the dog isn't adoptable. So, you know, I'll be happy to talk about kill versus no kill all you want, but sometimes euthanasia is the only solution. Yeah.
If you think of, you know, again, the nature versus nurture, what's your view on how many, most of the dogs that I see that show aggressive behavior really are fearful? How many do you think, or percentage-wise, are really